Welcome back to Urban X TV. I'm Malcolm, and I'm joined here today by a special guest, Master Teacher Ed Underwood, who is the founder and creator of the Touchstone Learning Solutions, which uses the thought purity method, which is um, a patent pending system. I would say it's a holistic system for learning that accelerates growth and fosters wisdom. How are you, Ed? Welcome.
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So, I want to get into what Touchstone Learning Solutions is, so people can understand, and the thought purity method. I don't know. I don't know. You're the expert here, and I need you to explain so people can understand how this can help them and their children when it comes to learning. So, what's up? Welcome.
Yeah, man. I can break it down for you quite easily. My passion is helping people, and and help people learn is, I got attached to that frame of thinking when I would see children light up when they get a little flash of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And going through the school system, I became a teacher. Eventually, I became a teacher, and I wasn't seeing any of those flashes of understanding in any of the students. And I knew it was like that on by design. And the reason why I became a teacher is so I could figure out how I could help people learn better within the system. Even if you have to be within the school system,
Right.
there's still learning that could go on. And to be frustrated and not be able to reach your goal or learn, it's setting yourself up for failure. So I developed Touchstone Learning Solutions because people need there's learning is not a one size fits all thing. But the school system makes you sit down and they give it to you one way, you give it back to them one way, and you're successful or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not really how life works. So Touchstone Learning Solutions, I've studied, countless frameworks and methodologies and I've studied the principles of learning, the mental science, mental chemistry, and how we think, and I come up with this methodology that I call the thought purity method,
Okay.
and that's basically Touchstone Learning Solutions, and that's what we bring to help people help themselves.
So, how long have you been a teacher?
Since actually, I guess I was raised by a teacher. My
Mm-hmm.
father is a teacher, and I have a sister who's 10 years younger than me, so I was teaching her. When I was in high school, I was mentoring young people, elementary students. I became a coach out of high school. So I've been teaching for a long time. Officially, I've been a teacher for 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So, what were some of the things that I guess that you saw or experienced in a traditional education system that forced you or kind of forced your hand to want to do something yourself?
Well, I I was a victim of this system.
Okay.
I went through high school, and I had my idea that I was going to go through high school, meet my requirements in high school, and move on into the next phase of my life, and everything was supposed to take care of itself. But it wasn't like that. But I got to college, and I attempted to pursue a path that I was interested in, and found out that I had no foundation. I couldn't even start the classes that I wanted to take. I had to go back and take some
Wow.
other classes in college, and at that point, I felt totally unprepared. And so I had some trouble with my grades, and I worked it out, brought them back up. Then I got in trouble with some financial aid. Some situations happened. So it was like one way or the other, the system is not set up for success. So when I came back home, I was always working with the children and the youth. I said, well, if these children don't get help and have some understanding about what's going to happen at the next level, then they're going to be in trouble. And so I took on that mission to go back into the school system and become a teacher so I can find out the nuances and the science behind how they were setting my people up for failure.
Got it. So, on the website, Touchstone Learning Solutions, you talk about empowering learners, and that always stuck out to me every time I see the website. I see a commercial on our podcast and things like that. You talk about empowering learners. Could you expound upon that and what that means for people and I guess their children?
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. So, empowerment comes from understanding that you have the ability and to achieve your goals.
Hmm.
When you have that sense of confidence, like you see something that you want, and then you know the steps and the procedures to achieve that goal, then you become empowered. And if anything is blocking that, then you start to feel, I don't know, you get angry. Your inside starts to churn because you're not able to achieve your goals, and that's what the school system does. It basically steps on souls and spirits because if you raise your hand and you don't get called on, now you're discouraged. If you raise your hand and you get the answer wrong, now you're also discouraged. And that is not how any type of learning takes place. That is a straight indoctrination system.
Hmm.
When I was in the school system teaching, they put the labels on the children, and the children think those labels become them, and so that's a sad situation. So I had to do something. I had to
Got
do
it.
something.
Because yeah, like every time I hear empowering learners, my mother is a sixth grade math teacher. She's been a teacher almost 20 years now. Like she always comes home and she talks about how there is a lack of critical thinking with some of these students, especially with a subject like math, where there could be multiple ways to get to an answer, and I don't know if if anybody watching from New York City, but they introduced like the Common Core way of teaching math, and it's a specific set of steps that kids need to take to get to the answer. And sometimes there are kids who think around that and they can find the answer a different way, but that'd be wrong. So when I
Mhm.
hear empowering learners, I that's what I consider like empowering them to think around an answer, to think deeply around something and through something. So I really, really appreciate that. So I wanted to ask you another just kind of a basic question around surrounding your like teaching experience. What subjects did you see that kids in in your school or in your experience had the most issues?
A basics, reading and writing.
Okay.
Well, what you were just saying before about uh, the Common Core. I've done the research, man, and back when this country was turning into the industrial age,
Mm-hmm.
they removed the critical thinking from the school system, and they started putting in what the industrialists wanted people to do in their factories. That's why you got to sit down for 6 hours. You got to raise your hand. You got to go to the bathroom, this, that, and the other, because you're being trained.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, in public school, it's 15,000 hours of public school. From the time you start to the time
Wow.
you graduate, 12, that's 15,000 hours of indoctrination. And
Wow.
you are well aware of the 10,000 hours that they say you need for mastery. But at a young age, you need much less than that because that's the time where you're supposed to be getting those
Mm-hmm.
repetition, learning,
Wow.
and smooth it out. But yeah,
I didn't even think
it's
about that. Wow. So let's get into your thought purity method. I need you to explain. I need you to break this down, man.
yeah. I'm glad I'm here, and thank you for this opportunity because this is something that you have to sit down and understand that our thoughts are always influenced by everything around us all the time. You cannot help but being influenced. But to have understanding of your own thoughts And if those thoughts are helping you or hurting you, is the difference between success and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my experience of teaching and learning from myself and teaching my children and students, nobody's going to learn unless they're motivated. You have to be motivated. You cannot force learning. There's no way to cram information into somebody's head. You have to reach out for it. To pay attention means with your mind to reach out and grab. Well, the first component of the thought purity method is to it identifies your motivation. Everybody's motivated by one or a combination of uh, three basic frameworks. Some people motivated by power.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be number one, the leader, competitive. Some people are motivated by affiliation. They want to be a part of a group and move within that group and have influence in that group. Some people are motivated by achievement. They'll set their own goals, go off and do their own thing, and they're perfectly happy. Within those motivations is also the negative side that a lot of people aren't aware of or pay attention to. But once you identify those behaviors and those motivations, you can tweak those motivations and understand them and understand how to use them to spark learning so you don't get that frustration.
Mm.
Which leads you to the next component of the thought purity method, which identifies if you're a visual learner, if you're an audio learner, maybe you like to read and write in order to understand things, or you might be a kinesthetic learner, which you get actually do the thing and then you sit back and reflect. And if you're a visual learner and all you get in is audio or people's telling you what to do, now you're missing information and vice versa. So understanding that combined with the motivation gets you to the next component of the thought purity method, which is it's called the format framework. And everybody, your mind gets triggered, and your curiosity gets sparked by questions. Answers really shut your mind down.
Mm-hmm.
Questions get you to think and move on. So everybody, you might be a why learner. You want to know why things relate to you or why it's important. You might be a what learner. You want to know what the components of it are or what exactly it is, the definition, the facts.
Right.
You might be a how learner. You want to know how things work or how procedures go. Or you might be a what if learner, which when you want to take, okay, if I understand this information, then what can I do with it? Those are dynamic learners. So those three components are the first components of the thought purity method. And understanding those three things could put you way far ahead from communicating with yourself and how you learn, your child, how they learn, and even anybody in your household can get along better if they just understand those three things. And so what's furthermore is I inserted the critical thinking component back into this method. And that component is called the trivium method. And the trivium method is very little understood, but it's the first three phases of the seven liberal arts. And those come from Greek. And you can use the old Greek names of grammar, logic, and rhetoric, which you may have heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge, another word for grammar is knowledge. Another word for logic is understanding, and rhetoric is wisdom. Or the new way, some people might understand it as input, processing, and output. Those three phases are cyclical. They go over and over again. You gather the information without bias. You come to understand that information, remove the contradictions, remove the fallacies and the errors in your thinking, and knowledge plus understanding in the real world equals wisdom. It's just like a layup. It's like
Right.
1 plus 2 equals 3.
Right.
And if you don't get the outcome you want in this system, well, then it's easy to look back and say that maybe there's something I didn't understand, or maybe there were some facts or something I didn't gather, and then I could get right back to it and get to the wisdom. So then that's the fourth component of the thought purity method, you come to understand that, then you got to start asking yourself questions. You got to ask questions to get to the heart of any matter. And anybody listening to this can probably relate to when they ask their child something and they shrug their shoulders, or they give them a one answer response that doesn't really get deep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you answer like that, you also think like that. And thinking like that gets you in trouble because you get asked a couple questions and you only got a couple of layers deep and you don't really have an understanding of what you're talking about. But in the thought purity method, you put that into your learning framework and you ask yourselves those tough questions to remove biases and remove fallacies in your thinking, because a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. You understand what I'm saying?
Right, right.
You only know a little bit and then you think go off and think you got enough. You talk to people, it's like they can only go for so many questions. So then after that, the next component of the thought purity method is it's the crux of it. It's a moral and ethical component. Now, there's 12 virtues that I found from this article a while ago, like, I don't know, 15 years ago. And that article always stuck to my head, and it was the 12 virtues of rational thought. And I took those and I said, well, if you want to learn, then you have to take these virtues and apply them to your thinking. And so I switched them up a little bit, and I'll just say them real quick. Love, the force that drives the universe. Curiosity is what sparks your learning. Evenness is to be even when you enter any situation of learning without having, oh, I think it's going to be like this. When you're going into something, you're going to be in
Mm,
trouble. Relinquishment means you got to be able to give up what you thought you knew so you can learn some new stuff.
mm,
You got to get rid of the old stuff. Argument is being willing to talk and discuss ideas, not so you could be right, so you could come to some understanding. And you have to be precise in your thinking. You know, if it's 10, it's 10, not 9. If it's
right.
10, 10, not 11. And people get mixed up on that because some things are black and white. Some things, you can wiggle. It has a little wiggle room, but most things are black and white. It is what it is. That's the famous saying. And I always say it is what it is, but if it's not, then you can make it what it is. And so the next component or virtue is simplicity. Keep it simple. Things is not really that hard. You could just break it down. I always say things is not as hard as you think they are, but it's at the same time it's not as easy as you think it is either. So you got
Right.
to get to work. So and then empiricism. You gotta have some experience. You gotta have some real world experience before you can base some judgments on some things.
Mm-hmm.
And people go about their life on he say she say, and then they get in trouble because they don't have that experience. And then I think there's scholarship, lifelong learning, stand on lifelong learning, and there's those virtues. Once you understand those and incorporate those into your learning, then that leads you to the last component of the thought purity method, which is this framework, and it's called the DILTS model, learning levels. And and I look at this as a map, and the map goes like this: the bottom layer of the pyramid is environment, and the second layer is your behavior. The third layer is your capabilities or your
Mm-hmm.
ability. The fourth layer is your values and your beliefs. And the next layer, the fifth, is your identity. And above that is your purpose. And so, okay, so now after you move through the thought purity method from your motivation through your learning preference, your learning style, your trivium, you're asking yourself the good questions, you have the moral and ethical component. Now you can take a look at your identity and choose which identity you want. You can change your behaviors because you have values and beliefs that you can control how you learn, and you have this framework that you can move through any learning environment,
Mm,
acquire any skill. And it's cyclical because once you assume that identity, it's like the hero's journey. You're going to be a new person in that new environment,
mm,
and you're going to look around and you're going to be like, oh, wow, I have these skills and this capability. I'm ready to do so much more. Let's go. and then you sharing it with people,
Mm.
and that's what the thought purity method is all about.
That's incredible. I wanted to know, and I'm sure anybody who's watching and listening right now, they also want to know. Okay, it sounds, as you explained everything piece by piece, that sounds like a lot. How are you able to transfer that to them or their child as they elect to work with Touchstone Learning Solutions?
Right, thank you. So I offer an assessment, and on my website there's a tab that says Learning Profile, and you click that and you take the assessment, and that assessment will give you and me information on the first three phases of the method. It'll let me know what motivates you. It'll let me know your learning style and your learning preference. And then I'll give you a report. And that report will have information on how you could take advantage of that information in your household for yourself or your child. And then after that, if you want more, then it's easy to reach out to me, and then we could have a sit down, and I could sit down and explain to you the values of understanding, intimately the
Mm-hmm.
components of the thought purity method and how that would benefit you and your family. And also inside my community, I also have information and content about learning, so that if you get into the community, you'll start getting an idea of where I'm coming from and how it's useful. And then you won't. It's like somebody asked me the other day that's working on this project with me. Their question became, well, what if you don't have this methodology? And my thing is, I understand that's a good question, because
Mm-hmm.
what happens is it's like hit and miss. It's like throwing a dart at the dartboard with your eyes closed. Abraham Lincoln had that quote: "If you're going to give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend the first two sharpening my axe."
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thought purity method is sharpening the axe. It's getting yourself strapped up so you can get ready to go take on some skills and start that journey. That's how people are supposed to understand this methodology.
That's incredible. How do you feel like um how do you feel, because I understand that sometimes you work one on one with people. Are you trying to get this out to even more people at at a greater scale? Like what are you doing to do that?
Absolutely. Well, I'm in the process, and I just started the other day that I'm building a community on the school.com. I'm gonna put had a link and the
Hmm.
information and thing. But as far as a one-on-one, that's why. Listen, this started with my style of teaching, and I love dealing with people, and they enjoy my style. Then my style turned into an approach,
Mm.
and now people's like raising their hand, having me come helping, and I'm using this understanding that I got, and then that turned into a methodology. So I'm building this community to try to spread this methodology. And because it's new to me, and I'm giving, the learning profile, and I'm doing this, come to the community and let's help each one teach one, because
Mm.
that's what it's all about.
Right.
And that's how I envision this methodology spreading. And there's a little bit more, because the system needs to fall, man. Centralized education is coming to an end,
Hmm.
if you don't already know that. So, an attempt to be ahead of the curve, this methodology is what people could use to step into the next area of education, with understanding of what they need, and what motivates
Right.
them.
This has been great. Is there anything else you would like to know or you would like to tell somebody about the thought purity method or the learning profile, that if they could leave here with something tangible so they can try right now with themselves, with their partner, with their children, whoever they feel like needs this?
That's a good question, and thank you. It's real easy. You can just ask yourself: has anybody ever asked you them questions before?
Hmm.
Just the first three, uh, you know, parts of the thought purity method. Has anybody ever asked you them questions before? And if they have, which I doubt, how did you? They tell you how to apply that information. And I hear a lot of people say, "Yeah, I am a visual learner." That's it. That's all you got. You don't want to do nothing with that. There's so much more you could do with that. And if you are, let's build on that because that's everybody's a natural learner. We're here on this planet to learn, and if the saying goes, live and learn. So that's the last thing I'll say. Listen, this time, this day and age that we live in, people is frustrated. They're doing stuff that they don't want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot are looking for a way, a change. And instead of just throwing it against the wall and seeing what sticks, pick up this method and understand where you want to go and take a direct course because empowering learners, supporting families, and strengthening communities is what it's all about.
I love that. I love that. So, with that being said, this has been Urban X TV, and we were joined here by a master teacher, somebody who's put together a methodology to help learners learn even better. Um, the, the thought purity method from the Touchstone Learning Solutions. Everything will be in the description below. If you want to reach Ed, his information will be in the description below as well to work with him. I implore you. I have a 4-year-old, and we are just now discovering how his mind works. Like he is just an interesting kid. His mind is everywhere, and it's interesting to it's incredible to watch that happen, to watch it mature, to watch him do what he does. So when you talk about empowering learners, when you talk about what the school system does in, I didn't know, 15,000 hours, that they um imprison our kids mentally, and I don't think a lot of people really understand that. And there's a lot of great teachers out there who want to do the right thing and who are trying to do the right thing, but they're confined into like a real um uh tight system that it's really tough. So I really want to commend you for your work that you're doing. Totally appreciate it. Do you have anything else that is coming up that you need, that you want to promote out to the people as well?
Thank you for reminding me. As a matter of fact, I do. I got a webinar. I got a webinar coming up on December 14th at 11 to 12. It'll be from 11 to 12. And in that webinar, I'm going to have a opening session, and we're going to field a couple of questions about people's experiences with learning. And then I'm going to introduce the thought purity method, and I'm going to break it down. And I got some people on the production. So it's going to be the first of many. And I'm inviting everybody who sees this, you see this before the 14th, log on to the community, to the information on there, and stay tuned, man. I got a lot more to come. I can't wait to share it. I can't wait to see you all on the other side.
All
All right.
right. So with that being said, again, don't forget to hit the description below, and we'll see you on the other side. Peace.
Peace.